All right, Ryan. So first thing, the question was describe in general what is slope. So slope really just refers to the steepness of a line. And we talk about something like this. If I were talking about this line, that line is somewhat steep. This line right here has a lower slope because it's not as steep. It doesn't go up as fast. Figure that driveway at the cabin is fairly steep, so it has a fairly steep slope. This might be something like a roof at the cabin. This is really steep. And the steepness of a line is a ratio. And the ratio is always the rise over the run, meaning how far does it go up or down, and how long a run does it make side to side. So that's in general, that's what slope is. By the way, if you ever see the letter M, that's the letter that we use for slope. So let's go to the second question. Find a different mnemonic that will help you remember the four slopes. I'm not sure exactly what mnemonic you're looking for. We sometimes talk about a guy named Slope Man, and Slope Man has two eyeballs. One is a plus and one is a minus. And he has one eyebrow there and one eyebrow there. And what that helps us to remember is that lines that go in this direction up and to the right have a positive slope. And lines that go downhill, that we say this is downhill, this right here has a negative slope. And then we have a nose. The slope man has a nose, and his nose is a U. And that means a vertical line has an undefined slope. And we have a horizontal line, and he has these cute little dimples. And a horizontal line, and if you were a skier on a horizontal line, you would go nowhere, and you would not have any fun. And the slope would be 0, and that's the slope of a horizontal line. Of course, if it was a vertical line and you were a skier, all you would do is fall straight down, and that would be undefined. So a vertical line has that slope right there. As far as mnemonic, I don't know, uphill, positive, climbing uphill, puff, puff, downhill, easy breezy, negative, I'm not sure. However you want to come up with a mnemonic, I don't even know. Let's talk about this one. Describe as a general quotient. Quotient is a fraction problem. So again, we're going to talk about rise and run here. How would you describe the four different slopes? So let's take a look at, first of all, a positive slope. So I'm going to draw something up here. I'm going to draw a little line segment. I'm going to just draw this line right there. Okay, that's a positive slope. And if I'm going to count the rise and the run, I got to pick 2 points, and there's a point, and there's a point, and there's another point. So notice that every time I go up 1, I go over 2, and if I go up 1 again, I go over 2. These are your little triangles, I'm assuming. So that's 1, that's 2, this is 1, this is 2. And then our rise for that is 1. So a positive slope, whenever I go up, that's positive. And when I go right, that's positive. So when I go up and right, that's a positive divided by a positive, which is a positive. That's why this is a positive slope. Now let's pick a different color. I'm gonna pick something that's got a negative slope. And by the way, let's go back to the positive slope. That was a positive 1/2 slope because it was up 1 and over 2. So we might say something like this on this particular problem. M is 1/2. I'm going to go back and pick this negative slope here, and I'm going to draw this one. I'm going to make it a little bit steeper too. This one's going to go downhill, and that's got a negative slope. And let's talk about why. If I pick, I'm going to pick some dots. Put them in blue. I'm going to pick that dot. There's that dot, and there's that dot. And if I go down, I got to go down 2, and then over 1. And then I'm going to go down 2 again and over 1. Notice that the slope is always the same. So in this case, the M is 2 over 1, but it's negative, and here's why. When I go downhill, that's a negative. And when I go right, that's a positive. So when I go down 2, that's a negative 2 and then a positive 1. Now, you might say to yourself, what happens if I go uphill? Then it'd be positive. Well, sure. If I could go up 2, that'll be up 2 right there. But then I go left 1, and left is a negative. So this positive, this up 2 would be a positive 2, but that'd be a negative 1. So that would, either way, one of those is going to be a negative. Either I got to go up 2 and left 1, which is this first one, that's a negative 2 over 1. Or I got to go down 2 and right 1, and that would be a negative 2 over 1 also. So those are both negative slopes. Let's take a look at the zero slope. Something that doesn't have any rise at all, right? I can't even draw a triangle because to go up from this dot to this dot would be up 0. So I have a rise of 0. I'm going up 0, and then I've got a run. It doesn't even matter what the run is. The run is 4 in this case, because a 0 slope has a 0 rise, right? It's just a horizontal line, so it doesn't go up or down any. It's just straight across, and it doesn't matter what the run is. 0 divided by anything is 0. It could be over 10. 0 divided by 10 is still 0. Let's take a look at the vertical line. The vertical line has an undefined slope because it's all rise and it's no run. So when we talk about rise and run, the rise could be any number it wants. This line right here has a rise of, I don't know, what did I make it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it could be a rise of 6, but the run is 0. Anytime you divide by 0, if you go ask Siri, hey, what's 6 divided by 0? It's going to talk about how you don't have any friends and Cookie Monster is sad and all that stuff. This is an undefined. It's not defined. You can't divide by 0. Undefined slope. Oh my gosh, we're at 6.5 minutes in. And what's the slope formula? Well, here it is. Using 2 points. So if you have a x comma y and another point x comma y, all we need to do is assign these guys numbers. That could be x1, y1, and this would be x2, y2. And if you want to find the slope, we need the rise and the run. And the way you find the rise is we subtract the two y numbers. So we go y2 minus y1, and the run is x2 minus x1. We have a couple of little gimmicks we can do for that. Let's go take a look at, and actually, for some reason, here, let me give you an example of something like this. If I had 2 points that were at 5, 3, and let's say 8, 9, we want to find the slope. I'm going to just I'm going to go y2 minus y1. So there's a y and there's a y. So I'm going to go 9 minus 3, right? y2 is 9. So there's 9 minus 3. If 9 is y2, then 8 has to be, so if this is y2, this right here has to be x2. This right here has to be x1. So on the bottom is going to be 8 minus 5. And then I just subtract, 9 take away 3 is 6, and 8 take away 5 is 3. So in this case, the slope is positive 2. If I wanted to do it with a couple of different points, like let's say 0, negative 4, and I don't know, let's go 7, I don't know, let's make negative 1. So we create ourselves an integer problem. So here's the slope. I'm going to let this one right here be x2 and this one here be y2. So y2 minus y1 is going to be this. It's going to be negative 1 minus negative 4, right? Pay attention to the two negatives right there because those are going to become pluses. So negative 1 minus negative 4. And on the bottom is just 7 take away 0, right? There's x2 minus x1. Negative 1 and then negative 4 is plus 4. So that's 3. And that's 7. So it's positive 3/7 in this case. And if you can't reduce it, then you just call it good. This last problem, describe in steps what would you choose to make a table of values. This one's relatively straightforward. A table of values looks something like this. And what we teach kids is when you have a fraction, you want to choose multiples of the denominator. So in this case, we're going to choose even numbers. And the reason is we don't want to be taking halves of odd numbers because half of odd numbers is going to give you fractions. So the numbers I would choose are things like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. And the reason is you can actually take half of them. So when we have this particular equation, we have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 4. This is what we're going to do first. We're going to divide by 2. And then we're going to multiply by negative 3. And then when we're done with that, we'll add 4. So if I go fill in this table of values, we'll take 0. Divided by 2 is 0, times it by a negative 3 is still 0, and then you add 4 and you get plus 4. And that's that dot right there. That's the y-intercept, actually. That's what that is right there. That's called B. That's our y-intercept right there. And then we're going to put a 2 in there. So if I put a 2 here, I'll draw it. I'll put a 2 here. So we can also multiply those first. That'd be -6, and then divide by 2 is -3, and -3 plus 4 is 1. So again, we'll put a 4 here. I'm going to just change that to a 4. -3 times 4 is -12, but then divide by 2. -12 divided by 2 is -6, plus 4 is a -2. So notice what's happening. Every time this goes up by 2, this right here is going down by 3. So the next one's going to be a -5 because this went up by 2. And this goes up by 2 again. The next one here is going to be a -8. And so I'll do this one. I'll plug the 8 in and you can see it. So y equals -3/2 times x, which in this case is 8 plus 4. So I'll divide 8 divided by 2. I'll divide that first. That's 4 times -3 is -12. And -12 plus 4 is -8, just like we said. So all this is about patterns. As long as we are adding 2 to x every time, the change in y should be the same. So one of the questions says, describe in general terms what is slope. Another way to say it is it's your rate of change. Okay? Besides saying rise over run or how steep a line is, it's also called the rate of change. Sometimes we even call it the unit rate. I don't know if you've seen something like if you need to go buy gas, it's $3 a gallon, that's a unit rate. Anyway, if I go back here, let's put these dots on the graph and then be done. Over 2 up 1 is that dot right there. Over 4 down 2 is right there. And all these things, oh, I didn't go down 2, did I? Well, I was going to say they all make a straight line, and then that one wasn't going to make a straight line. So over 4 down 2, over 6 down 5, and you can see that all these lines right here are just making a straight line because it's a linear equation. There they are. All right.